Friends, family, and keepers of the faith, welcome to another Delboy blog. And as always, we date stamp these. This one is year 3 blog 16, or in legacy numbers, blog 120. And it's dated 9th of the 6th, 2024. And we've changed the format a little bit because we're going back to doing the news first and then do what's been happening to me, usually because what's been happening to me the last couple of weeks has taken up the biggest amount of time. So we'll get the news out of the way. I do it just to date stamp, really, so you can get past this in about 5 minutes really quite quickly. And most people that have been watching or following my blog know that I keep the war in memory. Because it started around about the time I did my blogs, plus it's still going. So what did I learn about the war this week? Well, this was a very recent article. President Biden says that Russia won't stop at Ukraine as Moscow fails in Kharkiv. So that's an offensive that Russia is doing at the moment. The statement was made on a presidential visit from Biden to France, where he revealed a roadmap to support Ukraine. Meanwhile, Putin threatens to retaliate against Western countries that allow long-range missiles to be used against Russia. So yeah, it's an interesting story because there's a more powerful, stern message to Russia on this one. And on top of that, Russia do not like long-range missiles, but then again, they've been using them themselves. It's all to do really with NATO shouldn't be seen helping non-NATO countries. But they have to look at this as going, yes, but there are loopholes in this. There is grey areas in this, and Russia have been exploiting them all the way through. So, as you know, my answer to it is that I want it all to end. And, I'm fully behind Ukraine. Let's hope for a peaceful answer to it all. There's been a couple of news stories in the UK. There's the run up to the general election on July 4th, where the two big leaders from the Conservative and the Labour Party had a sort of TV questions and answers on Monday night. It was seen by about 5 million people, so it had quite a good turnout. I saw about 10 minutes of it, switched off. It was all bullshit from one side, bullshit from the other, as I saw it, with lots of, you haven't really explained that very well, with explanations having to follow the next day. Typical stuff. So there's two what I consider to be stronger stories really here. One of them is something that most people in foreign countries won't recognise, but there has been a missing person called from Dr. Michael Mosley. He's a TV doctor, well known for doing some documentaries on sort of like what's the word? Little known facts about fads and things. I remember he did a 50-minute documentary on fast burning routines. Some people that consider that going for a walk is quite good, 30 minutes, it's all been well documented. But there are other people that say you can do all of that in 30 seconds at the very beginning of your day. And if you do that 30-second routine every day, it's the equivalent of doing the 30-minute walk, because it wakes your body up, burns fat and so forth. But it really is pushing the boundaries of going fast. I mean, you're pushing it really quick and hard. Something I might not consider with my current health. But it was an interesting documentary, and it's from an interesting guy. And anyway, Dr. Michael Mosley This is the article. A well-known TV doctor went missing nearly 6 days ago, triggering a search. A body has now been found near an umbrella that was identified in the CCTV footage that's been used to identify the man. No other info is known at this time, so we don't know whether it's him. I think by the time this blog is finished, it will be identified as him. Such a great shame. And like I say, I found him quite an entertaining doctor. I never really watched him on TVAM or any of those early morning programs. I've watched him do more major documentaries for the BBC on certain fads and things in regards to your health. So, a sad loss. And then I have to do my rest in peace because on the 3rd of June, William Russell, an actor, aged 99, died. And he's more known for part of my childhood, really, because he was one of the first companions on Doctor Who.
Sorry, I'm not sure.
As Ian Chesterton. But, he was in the first sort of like 2 seasons, and not a lot of people watch classic Doctor Who that far back because they find the stories a bit long and boring, and obviously certain episodes are missing, and don't really want to listen to audio stories. So a lot of his stories are sort of like lost to time, pun intended there. But I recognize him as well as being in certain films. He was in Superman the movie, and he was in The Great Escape, only small parts, but he was an actor of quite distinction. 7 decades. Think of that, 7 decades of your life being an actor. Such a great loss. I'll certainly miss him and his tales, especially with certain stories that are missing. But I'll remember the good times, watching some of those older stories. Definitely an interesting character, one that did return back to Doctor Who on a number of occasions. But it's just like anything else. We've lost the ability now for him to tell other Doctor Who stories in a narrative type of way, audio tales and so forth. So, yeah, a very sad loss. And that's the end of the news. So we just sort of like talk about my week, and you may know that I was going in for a procedure last Monday, and that occurred. Good and bad points. I think I've got to look at the positives here and say there's a way forward. But I was very disappointed and came away, quite sad, really, that nothing really has happened or occurred. And let me explain about this. I was going in for a coronary angiogram, which is basically a 2-part thing. It's an investigation and an intervention. The investigation is a dye that's injected into your heart, and that's done via a wire that goes through your arm to the top of your heart. They then scan with a special camera where they detect the block, and then the intervention comes in regards to widening the arteries with a balloon, or even inserting something called a stent, which is sort of like a collar, which has sort of like grip abilities. It's been described to me like a mesh that expands out and then it doesn't contract. Sort of like those finger things that you put in, those Chinese prison things where you put your fingers in and you pull and you can't get your fingers out unless you twist. Sort of a bit like that grips the inside of the artery and keeps it wide. So I was there for 50 minutes, laying flat, not being able to see anything, being told to stay very still, trying not to cough very difficult. When somebody says, don't cough, you go, damn, I want to cough. It's that sort of thing. Definitely felt uncomfortableness in my wrist where they inserted the wire, but nothing too disconcerting. And I didn't hear them say anything about a stent. And I was then told to sit up, put into a wheelchair, wheeled back to my place where I was going to rest, and then wait for a doctor. Now, of course, you're sitting there for hours. They're saying if you're tired, lie down. I wanted to stay awake, not knowing how long I was going to be there. Now, they recommend that you budget for a time of 8 o'clock in the morning till 6 at night. And I was told at 1:45 that I might be able to go at 2:30. But some things happened. At 1:45, the doctor did come and see me, and he told me what the situation was. And that was that they did use a balloon to expand the arteries at the top because they did find scarring. Similar to the sort of scarring that any person at the age of 55 might have that's been using hypertensive tablets. So that didn't scare me one bit. But he did say we couldn't do anything else. And there is sort of like two major options for me. I can continue with the tablets, knowing that this problem will always be there, using an angina spray for the rest of my life when I feel the need to use it, when I'm overexerting myself, which to me is not an option. I'm going, bloody hell, no. So what are these other options? And he goes, well, there is only one. At the moment, it's split into two, and the third one we won't consider at the moment. So I asked him, what do you mean by the third one? And he said, well, that would be open heart surgery. And I was going, oh, right. So he then explained to me what the problem was. And I got a booklet here. I might be able to show a picture of the heart. It's got some writing on it. The problem I've got is pooled blood from a clogged artery called the posterior descending artery. So it's at the bottom of my heart, which we've always thought it was, which is why I was a bit despondent. And basically what he said was it's totally closed. And based on the colour of the blood, it's been that way for quite some time, for which I didn't interrupt him, but I did ask the question, then why is it that I only felt the problem in January? And he said, probably because that's when it fully closed. It was probably almost certainly nearly blocked, which is why you've got the deep colour of blood in that artery looking at it. But it's at the bottom of your heart. This is where he needed to explain things to me. When things are at the bottom of your heart, there's only two things that you can sort of like really, three things that you can do, sorry. You can continue the procedure, which he didn't want to do at that particular time because he wanted to talk to me first, which is the wire continues along the heart tract, going down this artery, but you're going down it blind because there's no camera. And you poke with this wire at the blockage, sort of like a pipe cleaner, until it goes. And this wire might be a slight change to the wire because I think he said it has a suction ability, and that's where the blood is sucked out as it's being declogged. And the reason for that is a blood clot that then frees up will go through your bloodstream, and it will go faster and faster and faster around your blood, and it can be very dangerous because it can cause strokes, because it can shoot up to your brain very fast and like a bullet cause damage. So he told me about the most common answer to this, which is in two parts. We do it again, but this time we go from underneath. And I think that means that the wire is not goes through my wrist, it goes through my groin. And it's the same procedure, but they poke from the underside and you suck up the blood. And then after that, the stent is inserted. This time, definitely a stent is needed. But because it's blind and because you can poke the artery to the point where you cause a hole, you might have to have that abandoned, and then they make a small insertion in your chest, and it is small, I've been told, enough for a needle to be pushed through to the point where it touches that vein, pierces it, and they use a syringe to pull that blood out. And then the wire is used to put the stent in. So it's 2 parts. You need 2 people to do that. Right, I said, okay. What's the percentages on this? Good news, really, is that they do this quite regularly. It's just like the first procedure, only it's a change of 1 in 100 to 2 in 100, and 1 in 1,000 to 2 in 1,000. He said I wouldn't worry about the 2 in 1,000 bit because you've already had the dye put in, and we found that there's been no problems with that. So we would expect the same. So it'd be 1 in 1,000 again for that one. So really the danger is the stent and the removing of the blood, for which he said if I agreed to that procedure, it would be 2.5 months away. When I spoke to the nurses afterwards, they said probably sooner than that, more like 6 to 8 weeks. So you got to look positively at that there's a way forward. The third one is open heart surgery, which is where they cut you open and do it. Didn't like that one bit. So after that explanation came to me, quite despondent. They needed to remove the plastic cuff that was wrapped around my wrist, which is like what's the word? Like a ring around your chest that you'd have, like a flotation device. It was a very plastic, air bubbled thing that they pump up with air to put the pressure on the wrist so you didn't bleed. And they release 4 milligrams of air every 15 minutes until there's no pressure, and they check the wound. Unfortunately, I developed what they call a hematoma, a pool of blood between where the hole was that they poked the wire in and the layer of skin that covers your wrist, for which they had to do some very, very hard massaging to get rid of this pool of blood, and then put the cuff on and start the whole process again. At this time, my brother-in-law had turned up because, of course, we told him 2:30 I'd be going. Taking away 4 milligrams of air every 15 minutes meant we didn't leave until 6:30. I was then very tired. I got home. We explained things to my mother. I had a bit of quite a conversation with my brother-in-law. He observed me overnight, and I kept the bandage on as I was told for 24 hours. The trouble is that I noticed that the pool of blood was growing. I don't know if I can show you too much now, but it looks like that at the moment. Don't know if you can see, but you can see that the bandage was at the top there with the 2 holes. And there's the pool of blood that's now pushing further down my arm. It's like a bruise. And I was told that would take 14 days to go away. But that spreading meant that I went to the hospital Tuesday. So we moved past Monday, we get to Tuesday, with the only thing disappointingly for Monday was that I wanted to send text messages to most of my friends to tell them what was going on. But by this time I was tired. I couldn't see the phone. I wrote one message, copied it to as many people as I could think of, and I was drifting in and out of sleep. But on Tuesday, I phoned work and told them that I wouldn't be in Wednesday for definite, and that I might try to attempt to go to work Friday. But if I don't, I'll be into work Monday, which is tomorrow. And the reason for that is, and I told them this, I told them what had happened, that this wasn't like having a toenail cut off, that it's quite a major thing that's been happening to my body, and I'm totally exhausted, and I was. Tuesday, I was equally as tired. And I went to see about the wound. It says, particularly in the book, if this bleed continues, to bypass going to the GP and to go immediately to A&E or even call an ambulance. Well, I thought to myself, no, I'm not going to do that. I'll walk. I feel that the bleeding has stopped. It's just pooled blood, so there's nothing to worry about. I just want the dressing looked at. An hour and a half this took. So I went to A&E and they told me to see a nurse. The nurse looked at me and looked at the book and said, you need to go to something called the Fines Centre. It's a out of hours clinic where they're more geared to look at this. So I walked over there. This is after about 20-25 minutes. Was told to fill in a form, filled in the form. Then I had to wait another couple of minutes. Then I went in and they gave me a blood pressure check and a temperature check, and then told to wait again till I finally saw a doctor. She pulled off the bandage, said, "Oh yes, that looks nasty. I haven't got any bandages. I'll put a plaster on it for you." For which I went, "You haven't got any bandages? You haven't cleaned anything up. It's sweaty. That'll peel off as soon as I get home." "Well, we haven't got anything. So the best thing for you to do is go back to A&E and see if they've got any bandages there." So I walked back to the A&E department, explained to them what the doctor had told me. They sort of chuckled. A guy came up to me and said, they're quite true. He said, "We don't have really too many bandages." Bandages? You'd think, my God, what the hell? But he did get me a gauze, sort of like a cloth gauze. He put a piece of like cotton wool over the holes, wrapped gauze round, and then sort of like ripped it and caused a knot, to be on there. And he said, "Remove that in 24 hours." And that's exactly what I did. And that's where I've got this, these markings and so forth from. So, yeah, my hands were totally swelled up. I couldn't use a mouse for a couple of days. Wednesday came along in the evening and I did my normal chat with Ian, which I love to do. I did fall asleep before it, so I was quite awake doing the live chat, and it was fun. Took my mind away from things. And basically Thursday and Friday has all been about trying to rest, trying not to think about it, spending some time at home, doing some stuff in the garden, not pushing myself. So Thursday was the day that I wanted to get all the jobs out the way so I could sort of like rest Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And anybody who knows from the blog knows that I was waiting for my mower to come back. Thursday was when it was picked up. Thursday was when it was supposed to be finished. It was repaired, but the bloke wasn't going to bring it back till Tuesday, which is useless to me because that's the weekend gone and I'll be back at work and I wouldn't be able to mow the lawn possibly until the weekend. This guy is a mile away. I offered him some money. I said, "It's a 10-minute journey. You've picked it up, so I know you've got a vehicle." He said he still couldn't do anything till Tuesday. So I booked it for Tuesday and then started to phone around family. Unfortunately, my brother-in-law, his car has got a boot and the seats don't fold down, so that was useless. My vehicle would be useless for it because of the mower doesn't have a folding handle down. It definitely needed a van. So then I phoned up my uncle, and the van's in service, isn't it? But could be out of service Friday. So I kept my options open there. We even looked at renting a van for a day. But as anybody knows, that when you rent a van for a day, they want a huge deposit, and you take the vehicle away and then you bring it back the next day. And it would have cost, I think they wanted £90 for the deposit and £35 a day. Didn't worry about the £35 a day, it's the deposit and all of that sort of stuff. Plus, you got to remember, I'm not allowed to drive for 7 days after this procedure. So that went out the window. And we found the shops next door that live next door to our house, the post office and 2 other businesses. One of them is quite new, but they sell motorbikes and motorbike parts and helmets and stuff from there. They've got to know my mother quite well, because she basically stands outside in the front garden talking to people. And they said, Jed, do it for us. So we got the mower picked up. Took half an hour. 10 minutes to get down there. 15 minutes waiting for the bloody mower. 5 minutes to get back. Because of traffic, really. I gave him just over £20 for doing it. At the end of the day, he didn't want any money. But my mum would be disgusted if we didn't offer it. And I pushed it into his pocket. At the end of the day, we budgeted for the mower to be fixed up to £100, and the mower only required £35. So we did it under budget. So we were happy for that, just to get the mower back. I felt quite energetic, probably because of the adrenaline and moving, that I mowed the lawn. But as soon as I finished mowing the lawn, I felt sick and tired, which just went to show how much of an effect this is having on me. And basically, all I was happy is the lawn got done, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday has been rest. But I've just felt more and more tired. I'm probably looking forward more to going to work now than I was. I was wondering whether it'd be too much stress. But I'm going to try and get back to normal. It helped last time. So I don't know if I showed that picture, but there's the heart picture. And you'll see the little line going to the artery that I've got the problem with. So you'll see the 3 arteries at the top where they put the wire in. Look how far they've got to go to that line down there, and how thin that artery is. So yeah, not great. And I must take a sip now. But I thought that explanation was needed. It will be documented for my nephew and niece and my family later on, to know the sort of things that are going through my mind. I now look forward to that 6, 8 or 12 weeks that I'll be waiting. I continue to take my tablets. I continue to do walking, but steadily. And see how it goes. And I just look at the positives, that we know what it is. We know what needs to be done. It's just, I've got to go through it again. And with that pain that's in my arm, And he didn't say they've got to go through my groin, but I imagine that's the way it's going to go. The way he worded it was, we could have continued that day and done it, but he wanted to speak to me first because it's much more intrusive and has a higher risk. So they're not going to do that without speaking to me first on which is best. So I'm hoping it goes through my wrist again, because to be quite honest, I know what to expect. To go through your groin, nah. Don't really fancy that. Just don't even like the word groin. It even sounds nasty. Let's move away from that then. That's me. Thank you to everybody that's been concerned. The procedure, as far as I was concerned, went well, but didn't go well, did it, really? Nothing got done. They did widen the arteries. I have noticed when I've done blood pressure checks this week that they're much better. If you remember, my blood pressure readings before the widening of the arteries at the top of my heart were like 170 over 120, 130, and sometimes 130s. When I went to have the blood pressure check on the Tuesday to have my dressing changed, it was 135 over 94, and 90 being the normal bottom figure, 120 being the normal top figure. So that's great, isn't it? And it's been slowly rising. It's not been more than 136 as a sorry, no more than 140 as a top figure, and it's never been more than 101 as a bottom figure. So there is that widening of the top artery is having a good effect. So let's hope that the freeing up of the bottom one just basically knocks it on the head, and that's what I look forward to, it being all over. So much ado, let's move on to the shout outs. You know I love the shout outs, and you know there's probably more here because of what's going on with my health, and to those, thank you very much. And they're in no particular order, so I'll read them out verbatim. They are, every single one of these has left a comment or a text message to me in either of my stuff that I've done on YouTube this week, for which there have been two things. Okay, so we've got Wee Bob Art, Ian Hill the Ramblings, Carl Todd, Jim Jam Movies and TV, Danny Jukes, Jambon, Martroid, Denny, Colin Jones aka Ponder, Tony York, David Retro Games Played Badly, Steve's Gaming, and a couple that were in another video that I did this week, which was just a video capsule of a film called My Cousin Vinny. They were from Did You See That, Marvel Fan, and Andy's Cardboard Star Wars. Thank you so much to all of you for watching my content, leaving comments. During this dark period, just having a phone call, a text message, or something makes me think I'm in your thoughts. The people that haven't, I hope it's, you still hope the best for me. I can't tell, haven't heard from you. But, we all lead busy lives, and some people don't like medical procedures or talking about them, so I get it. It's just, like I say, sometimes you look at it and go, well, maybe I'm not in your thoughts that much. And I try to not dwell on those dark thoughts. Like I say, it's quite a complex thing, this. But loneliness does creep in, sadness. Are people interested or care? And everybody assures me that they do, so I hold on to that strength, and I'll continue to do that. So we move on now to your comments, and as you know, I read them out verbatim, and of course they're not in any order, so I'm just gonna, my throat is really dry today. So you might see me sipping an awful lot. The weather's been lovely, by the way, this week. Not at the beginning of the week, it was all raining. But from about Thursday, the sun's been out. And Saturday was lovely. Today it's overcast. But I think that's just burning up the early mist. And it'll raise, it's warm, my God. So, I'm hoping that I'll be in the garden possibly after this, just relaxing a little bit more before thinking about tomorrow and work. So, as I said, comments. The first one, not particular order, is from Carl Todd. He's got, "Hi Del, I was happy to hear that the procedure last week went well." So, yeah, like I said, I put that it went well. And I'll keep positive on that one. But you now know what the full procedure was. Make your own minds up. I'm sure that you will tell us more on your next blog. My comment last week, where I was wishing you well and asking questions, were deleted. So I hope you don't think I'm insensitive git when you didn't see anything from me. No, not at all. Not at all. Thanks for answering my questions as always. I asked about the Marvel masterpieces, but you thought I meant the masterworks. They are different. Masterpieces are a new large size format like the gallery editions, and they will launch next year with Amazing Spider-Man the Black Costume Year 1. Omar, near mint condition, announced them. Well, you know, I know Omar very well. I used to religiously watch his channel and his film reviews. There's a lovely lady that he does there, not his wife or his kiddies. Forgotten her name. She's married to his brother, I think. Can't remember her name for the life of me. Gorgeous lady, by the way. You know, things just got in the way, you know, and I sort of like went back to work and haven't been watching as closely. Probably because I'd spent so much money on omnibuses, believe it or not. So you continue here. So that's why I wondered if you wanted, you would get it, or if it was a step too far, another reissue or another repackaging. So yeah, so Omar is brilliant. He does all these reviews. He announces. He's got an insider at Marvel that tell him about stuff that's going to be happening in 6 to 12 months' time. So yes, master pieces used to be trading cards. They've now extended this. They've extended this now to the naming of books, and they call it a gallery edition. I've got some gallery editions, but they're huge. I mean, we're talking the biggest book I've ever had. If I was done to put it onto this table, it would reach the top camera of my second monitor up here. Huge things. And I did a picture of one. It was the Fantastic Four's 3 or 4 issue classic tale of the coming of Galactus. And I put my mobile phone and a comic on top of this book to show you the difference in the size of this book. And it's huge. But what Marvel are doing now is they probably took that license away and they're doing it themselves. And they're starting off with the Black Costume Year 1. Not quite sure what that means, because they did a series literally only a couple of years ago, which is still going now, sort of, called the Black Costume Year 1. Well, it's not called Year 1. It's called Symbiote Spider-Man. And tells the tale of the stories that happened to Spider-Man before he rejected the black costume. And I've got those, and I've got them sort of semi in omnibuses as well. Black Costume Year 1 sounds very much like it's going to be a reprint of those tales. And you're quite right, it's another reissue repackaging. When something like this occurs, what I usually do is dip my toe in the water, and I'll order one book. And it'll generally be the Spider-Man one. And then if I like the format, I'll consider getting the rest. The thing about those books is where you're going to store them. They are huge. I have got certain books, which are the IDW Artist Artifact editions, which I've done a small YouTube video on as well. You can find these in my playlists under extras. I need to clear that out, by the way, and put them into better playlists, but you'd find it anyway. There's only about 30 or so videos in there when you take the blogs, because the blogs aren't in there. And where was I going with this? Yeah, and those books, they're kept in their own wooden boxes to protect them, and you can't put them on a shelf. You'd never put them on a shelf. They are the size of art, you know, like a poster. They're that big, as big as that poster up on the wall there. So, you know, hard to display, hard to store. So I think I'll dip my toe. The answer is I'll dip my toe in it, Carl, and order one. I'll definitely hunt out Omar's announcement of it. There probably isn't anything to pre-order just yet. He will have had that information very early. And I'll check Amazon and all that sort of stuff to see whether there's any pre-order there for it or not. So you continue. I saw that you had the new Titanic 4K. Did you see that there is a disc replacement for it due to some missing dialogue? You can read about it at the digital bits. Yes, I knew of it. I filled in the form and have heard nothing back. Yesterday I filled in the form again. And I'm hoping to hear something in the next couple of days. I'm not sure if the reason I'm not hearing anything is because they're not considering foreign discs. So all the discs that were sent over here to the UK, even if you bought it through Amazon UK, they'll probably instruct Amazon, if anybody kicks them a fuss, tell them to refund and send the disc back to us. We'll resell it with the proper discs in, which is not a nice thing to think about, to be quite honest. I have looked, and apparently it's 1 minute of dialogue. I've actually got a 4K of the Titanic, but it's probably got the same missing thing. So I'm not sure. I don't know what to do about it, really. Like I say, I could buy the American edition. It's off the shelf now, and that would be the one with the corrected discs in it. Titanic is not exactly my favourite film, so I'll have a think and see what we're going to do about that. You were talking about 28 days later, 28 years later. There is one zombie film that I think is a good one that you may not have heard of, called Alive. It's a Korean film, but it can be hard to find. I'll look for that. Thank you very much. I like it when people introduce me to something new. I remember a film I have seen called Alive, but I think that was about a plane crash landing on the mountain and they had to eat each other. That was an American film about 10 years ago, I think. I don't think it's the same thing, because you mentioned it's a Korean film. So, yeah, look for that. So you got some questions for me as well. Thank you so much. If you don't mind, you don't often talk about novels. Do you have some favourite novels, authors? Not a top 10. And do you have some novels that you prefer to the movie? Same answer, and exactly the same answer to the second part, which is my favourite author is Douglas Adams. And he's famous for The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, a book turned into a radio play, turned into a play, turned into a film. And to be quite honest, it's a gorgeous book. To me, it just hit me correctly. Every adaptation other than the theatre production, I think, has been rotten. Really, the versions that are good are the book, the original TV series, which is outstanding, the radio play, which came after the book, which is brilliant, and the play, which has sort of a bit of audience participation, like the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Great. The film, awful. Absolutely awful. So it's a sort of like happy, sad thing when it comes to other media other than the book. But the book is brilliant. Series of books, really, because there's Restaurant at the End of the Universe and So Long and Thanks for All the Fish. And of course, Douglas Adams also was script editor of Doctor Who during 1977, around about season 16, 17. It's the series with City of Death. It opens up with a Dalek story and ends with the creature from the pit, I think. It's considered a season of highs and lows. It's got a couple of awful stories. But there's a couple of highs in there. And then, of course, the biggest low was the fact that they semi-shot a story called Sharda, which never got finished. There was a strike, and they've turned it into an audio play, and they have completed it through animation, but it's still regarded as not part of classic Doctor Who because it never got transmitted. I think that's the word. I think that's the reason. It's the transmission side. It never got transmitted, so it's not considered part of that season. Shame. I hope that answers that. 2, we all know how much you like the steelbooks, but what do you do with the J cards when you put the steelbook in the protective cover? Well, the J cards, if they're card, I keep them around the outside of the steel case, and then it's pushed into the plastic enclosure. The thin ones you can fold, and I usually fold those and put those as best as possible into the side clippings of the disc, close it up. So I don't chuck it. I don't chuck them, I keep them. But I don't keep them generally around the metal case anymore when I put them in the protective covering, unless it's cardboard. And the reason for that is I remove that horrible glue gel, which can leave residue behind and mark the discs. And so the cardboard, again, shouldn't make any difference to the steelbook. So that's what happens there. I do that rightfully or wrongfully? I'm not sure. And then your last question is, it seems that progress is being made in the handheld Mister, and an AMOLED screen has now been chosen, and it seems that the price is still estimated to be around $150. Would you be interested in that, or do you not use portable game devices? Well, I do use portable game devices, but not as big as I used to. I fell out with them a little bit because I didn't do as much travelling anymore. I know that you can plug them into your telly, but then there's wires that come out from them. I found them to really be used just exactly as they're intended, which is a portable device. So I sort of fell out of favour. The last handheld device I bought was the Powkiddy RG35, which is brilliant because it's got the Pico software on it, which is fantastic and designed. It's sort of almost designed for that little handheld. Because the other reason that the handheld does well is because it's a square display, not rectangular or sort of 16:9 widescreen style. So there's no borders at the left and the right. Okay, but if you then wanted to play later games on it, you'd get a border at the top and bottom for those games that are more modern. I tend to find I use it for old games, so it's perfect for me. So I'm interested in this Mr. one because it'd be interesting to know that if they've chosen the screen, whether they'll go with a square ratio or a rectangular ratio and what size the screen would be. And the other thing is that I'm quite attracted by the price. We know how much the TX10 or Mr. board is. So a handheld with a screen at 150 is very attractive. So yeah, I'm interested, not sort of hugely excited. But anything that gets the Mister into people's hands, I'm all for. It really is an impressive piece of kit, and a must, I think, for people that are into old technology, but don't mind having something modern that replicates old technology. Do you see what I mean? I don't want to get into this argument of its emulation and all of this sort of stuff. We've gone down this route. If you don't understand it now on why it's not emulation, from a software perspective, and what it's trying to do, then really it's too much to keep going over same ground. There are much better videos that will explain it better than me. I've explained it 4, 5, 6 times. So I'll leave it for you guys to look again if you're still not sure what it all means. Thank you so much, my friend Carl. Brilliant. Thank you. And we move now to my friend Denny, and I've just read what he's put. He's put, test due to missing comments again, now sent via Discord. So I'm going to go to my phone, haven't I? Okay, so let's open up Discord. Go to Denny. Oh, yeah, and here we go. Bloody hell. Right, chapter and verse read from my phone. So just bear with me. If you don't know already, Denny, one of my bestest of friends, always looking out for me. Fantastic guy. Like many, got his own channel. Please look it up. Currently, he loves doing restoration at the moment. That's restoration of pictures, like I used to do. So I used to do comic restoration. He's doing restoration of more computer-sided things. Computer magazines, covers, tape, cassette inlays, disc inlays, etc., etc. Anyway, I'm digressing. I'm bloody promoting you again, Denny. Bloody hell. Right, here we go. Hiya, mate. Hope you are well, my friend, and as always, great catching up with you this week, having a chat. Hope your mother has had a good week too. Yeah, just to talk about my mother for a minute, because I keep talking about me and I don't like it. My mother's all right. She's disappointed as well that she's got to go through this same thing again. It's hard for my mum. She's 83. And so all I can do is just try and remain positive. Never have a frown on my face when I'm talking about this procedure. Make it look like I'm not bothered. It'll be there. I'll be okay. That sort of thing. Difficult. But I think on the whole, I'm succeeding. So here we go. Well, there goes another week, and to be honest, a most productive one, even on night shifts at work. Pumped in a few hours restoring a few game covers, and as a request, I'm trying to refresh the cover of Zap issue 1 for Steve off our Discord. The cover is rather tatty, and most websites only hold poor copies of not only Zap, but most game covers too. So I'm looking to add a few for people to download, which are of higher quality. I wish others would follow suit too, as most retro archive pictures are in such a poor state. Exactly. This is where the digital comic preservation, or DCP, came from. That I joined, and we did it in regards to the fact that there's a lot of people that won't have things like issue 1 of Superman, issue 1 of Batman, or even reprints of UK Marvel comics that we used to buy for 5 pence and 10 pence back in the day, 70s and 80s. They were on biodegradable paper. They're yellow. They rip easy, etc., etc. So preserving these, I think, is a worthwhile thing. Trouble is, they then put them on torrents and put them out there, and they do it for modern comics as well. So they take it one step too far. I think really the DCP, from my point of view, being a fan, I mean, I can't fault them. They're fantastic, really. Need to look at themselves and go, shouldn't you have a wall that says anything that's as modern as the last 5 years, don't scan yet? But they never had that rule or law when I was there, and I don't imagine them changing that now. So you continue. Great question from Steve regarding the storage of your discs. It's now becoming difficult for me too. The really useful boxes are perfect to store DVDs, Blu-rays and 4Ks for anyone struggling with space. It's how I now have to store them, and they store roughly 60 discs per box. I wish I had the resources like a lot of people who have a spare room and put them on shelves. I've got spare room, no shelves. And I've used up all the spare rooms. So I'm in a terrible situation. And yes, it's something that I've got to consider looking at my hobby and putting the money that I save from not buying certain discs willy-nilly and buying shelves. So yeah, something that I've got to do. Starglider, you say? I never really know what the fuss is about. One of the most boring games I've played, plus the vector graphics slowed down terribly even on an Amiga. Never bothered with number 2. Game doesn't suit my PlayStation at all. And this is where I'm going, yep, I get where you're coming from. But I'm putting it down to the last bit. The game doesn't suit my play style at all. Because I love Elite, I love Mercenary. They're all of that particular sort of ilk in gameplay. And those aren't for everybody. And there is no doubt in my mind the importance of Starglider when it came to the Amiga. It's a bit like Defender of the Crown. There wasn't much around that pushed the boundaries of the Amiga in its first year. And yes, it has slowed down, but how beautiful it looked. Great. And yeah, the game is simple. But then again, so is Star Wars, the arcade machine, where you fly down the trench and blow up the Death Star. But I tell you what, people do that over and over and over again and never get bored. And this is where I'm going, it all depends on what you want out of a game. And in 1985, 86, when I bought it, it's what I wanted out of a game. Do I go back to it now? No. So I totally get, you see, where you're coming from. If I look at it now, I look at it as old tat. Just, putting it out there. But Jez San then went on to do things like stuff for the Nintendo, like Star Fox. And you might think to yourself, well, what's so good about that? Well, he took the medium about as far as any programmer can do by co-creating. I think that's the right word, co-creating, because I don't think he developed it himself. The chips that would make these 3D graphics zing, he called it the Super FX chip. And it was put into certain titles for the Super Nintendo to extend its longevity and to basically add a type of game that the SNES would not be comfortable in doing. So, yeah, I think without Starglider, we wouldn't have half of that. So I look at it as having historical presence. Yeah. So you continue, not watched much this week on telly, but had the odd game of Nordic Ashes, which I recommend to anyone, still being updated 2 years later. Yeah, there's not many games that are updated over a period of time. This is still early access. I bought it. I've played it. I need to go back and play more of it. It's a Vampire Survivors type game. And if anybody has looked at my history of videos I've done previously, you'll know I've seen a ton of these Vampire Survivors. I've played this one. Great. Interesting. It's just, I suppose I've moved away a little bit and I'm playing these like Planet Crafter type games now. And so I tend to find that I'll load those for 30 minutes, then put on a Vampire Survivors for 30 minutes. And maybe it's also to do with the fact that they're quite fast acting and my eyesight blurs. So I'm looking forward to getting my health back and then playing all these lovely games, especially the TV stuff as well to watch. So you say, so questions for this week on Ian's stream. I left a question regarding dubbed soundtracks on films, namely Godzilla -1. The feedback I seem to get from your reply is you wasn't so keen. Do you think dubbed soundtracks work better on TV compared to movies? Why I'm saying that is Monkey and The Water Margin, in my opinion, benefited being dubbed than a direct translation. Yeah, and I'll tell you what, that is a well-crafted and interesting topic. One that has multiple angles at it. You see, I think when we answered it on Wednesday, we looked at it from a film perspective. Wrong thing to do, because these things happen in TV as well. And I basically said that I've never had a problem with subtitles. In fact, one of the first films that I have a total wow factor with is Luc Besson's Nikita, which, by the way, gets a steelbook release this year in 4K. And I never listened to an English dubbed version of Nikita, and I'm not even sure it has one. I'll have to check. I've got it on Laserdisc and DVD and so forth. So I've grown up sort of like not being upset by subtitles, and also with the subtitles in the proper English, the proper language that the country that made the film comes in, means that the lip sync is there. They tend to try and adapt the lip sync for English dubbed by manipulating the screen mouths a little bit, but it doesn't work that well. And you can certainly see the lips continuing to move, even though the English narration is now finished. So you get that. So what are you going to do? Like that. And if anybody's watched YouTube where the sound is out of sync with the picture, you'll know what I mean. It's a distraction. So you've purposely added TV and mentioned Monkey. And I have to say, could I watch Monkey again in its native language with subtitles rather than the dubbed? And I don't think I could, because I think my nostalgia goes back to me loving the stories with the translation as it was, and the voices would come back and fill in that other nostalgic thing, because I'd also be using my ears to remember what each of the characters sounded like. Would it have hurt me to have seen the subtitles back then? I think I might have been turned off at such an early age. It would be like, why have I got to read this stuff? I watch TV because I want to watch the action and the stuff. I'd have that young brain mentality of, why am I watching this? I want to watch it. I'm English and I want an English version. So yeah, I would say with my older head on, it's not a problem to me. I'd watch both. One with subtitles, one in an English dubbed format, and I wouldn't bat an eyelid, because basically I've seen them. And if I haven't seen them, I have watched things like Squid Game, and those have had subtitles, and it's not concerned me. So I know I'm sort of like well kitted out, really, to say it wouldn't be an issue for me. From recommendations to other people on what they should do, I would say try the first 5 minutes, see how you get on with it. If you don't get on with the titles, then put the dub on. If the dub doesn't work, there's nowhere for you to go. You ain't got many other options. So yeah, it's an interesting topic, and I would just end it all by just saying it's horses for causes. It's how it distracts you from watching the program. Do it the way that is less of a distraction for you. And if time is not an option, watch both. When you consider Godzilla, I know what you're talking about. Again, I've heard no 4K. I've only heard of rumors of Blu-ray. And those Blu-rays are foreign country, not in this country. So, yeah, I'd buy it day one when it's released. Thanks, mate. Chat soon is how you've ended it. Thank you so much. I hope that gave you an answer. I think just with my age and my mature head on, it's not a big thing to me. I can see it being a complete dilemma for people of a certain age, and a switch off point for people that are set in their ways. So, like I say, the best advice for me is try both for a couple of minutes, see which one works for you. The best eat. It's a get out card, isn't it? Really, but it's how I look at it. Thank you so much. So that was the end of Denny's bits there. Moving on. And we'll do that in just a moment. I've just noticed that I'm getting quite warm. So I'm just going to pause for a second and I'll be back in a moment. It won't seem like any amount of time for you, so won't be long. And we're back. Just a couple of minutes to splash my face. I checked my alerts on YouTube, and I dare say I've got my numbers wrong for Steve, who I always mention because I watch his channel. And he's doing a series of a game that I finished last night. And so, yeah, definitely be removing that. Whether I'll do another video just to say I finished it, possibly. But anyway, I got my figures all wrong. And the next person I'm talking about is, hey, presto, Steve. So, or as I always do, my introduction. Thank you, Steve, for commenting. Such a great guy. Love his channel to bits. But I do my salute, which is, you bastard, I hate you. You're just too good. You get like that. Because I just have to now. It's the law. He starts off with, hi Dal, so sorry to reply so late Saturday night. Oh right, you only did this yesterday. I've had a bugger of a week and keep forgetting stuff, so forgive me. No. Of course I do. You know I wish you all the best with your health issues, so we'll skirt around that for a time. I really enjoyed you and Ian doing the stream. It was so enjoyable. Thank you. Now, a couple of questions for you. Question 1. My wife recently bought the complete DVD set of Man in a Suitcase. Yeah, you mentioned that. I'd never seen it. Now, after watching a few episodes with her, I really like it. My question is this. Can you recommend a DVD set that I can buy for her? Now, I don't expect you to be able to do this after all. She's got like 14,000 DVD discs. Bloody hell! I've got, well, I believe I've estimated about 4,000. And it's an estimate because I've catalogued about a third. 14,000 DVD discs. If you count them all, yeah, because I mean, obviously box sets will have like 11 in each, and that's why it's so difficult for me as well. My 4,000 is individual titles, so when it comes to disc, I'd still say I'd be below 10,000. If you count them all, but I'm thinking that maybe, just maybe, you know of some very under the radar series, or maybe the 60s or 70s that she might not have, and I can get it. She has all the popular stuff like Randall and Hopkirk, Dad's Army, Steptoe and Son, Likely Lads, Till Death Us Do Part, On the Buses, etc. You, with your knowledge, might just know of something that's good, but very rare or underrated. Right. You see, the sad news is Network went under. But they have restarted their label up under another company, and I think it's called Old Gold label, for which I've just recently bought Jack the Ripper, but that is a 80s, 90s, and you want to know more about older stuff. Now, when I remember we talked about that question, we brought up a number of titles when we were talking about Jason King, Danger Man, all of those ITC productions, the Protectors, the Persuaders, all of those. But those are all things that you probably now are well aware of. But I'm a big fan of anthology. Tales of the Unexpected, Twilight Zone, Outer Limits. I wonder, and it's a big guess, whether she might like Armchair Thriller. Armchair Thriller has just been re-released as an 11-disc set. And it's like Tales of the Unexpected. She might like that. If not, then we've mentioned Danger Man. and The Saint. Danger Man is something that she might like and might not. It's oldish. It moves into The Prisoner. And from that point of view, if you've got The Prisoner, you've probably got Man, and you've probably got Danger Man. BBC. There's all the old stuff. Zed Cars, Dixon of Dock Green. And the comedy-wise, you've covered it all. It's Likely Lads, Steptoe and Son. There's a lovely box set that of Ronnie Barker, where it's called I think it's called The Seven Faces of Barker or something like that, where he did 7 individual pilots, for which 2 were chosen to turn into series, and those series were, in the end, Porridge and Open All Hours. And although those other ones didn't turn into series, they're still cracking. Good watch. There's a little known one that Channel 4 did called that Rick Mail did. He did 6 period hour-long dramas. One of them with Helena Bonham Carter called Dancing Queen. They're comedy black dramas. In other words, they have a menacing overtone to them. And at least 3 of the 7 were cracking. I remember that. Really good stories. But that, again, is modern. I'm going to go with Armchair Thriller, hoping that that's good. I could go into, stuff with the American stuff. Invaders, Streets of San Francisco, all of that sort of stuff. But I think you know those. By the way, she's really, really interested. Quincy now gets a complete box set. And that's great, because we only ever got the first 2 seasons over here. I think that's released next month, if not out already, but it is in the £100 bracket. But when you consider it's 8 seasons of 20 odd episodes each, it's a bargain when you look at it like that. Armchair Thriller, mate. I hope that helps you. And salute to my good friend. And he told me not to apologise anymore, but I don't give a shit. I apologise for scaring you with my medical things. I have to say that it is mostly for my blog and my my mother and my aunt and my aunt and my uncle, nephew and nieces, and you guys, if you're interested. So I'm glad that you fast forwarded past those bits if they weren't for you. Thank you so much for your comments, matey. Don't worry, if you forget or whatever, I understand. And we move on to Jambon. I just do my salute to Steve. Jambon says, "Hi Del, thanks for another great blog. Hope you're doing well and recovering from your procedure." So you now know where I am with that. Have to say I'm not a massive fan of Zelda. Always thought Link was a bit of a drip and never made it past the 8 and 16-bit games. Yeah. I can understand that to quite a big extent, actually. I sort of fell out around the Wind Talkers, Wind Makers, or whatever it was. It was a cell-shaded jobby. And only really got into it when the Switch came back. And even then, it's like, wow. You either love it or hate it. It's a Marmite game. Some call it the best thing ever made. Yeah, if you like that sort of game, I'd say. But then again, you can say that about anything. Nice to hear that The Shining is a film that you enjoy watching again and again. Oh, yeah. Shining. Wow. What a film. I'm the same. A few years ago, they put out the longer American version. I went to see it in the cinema. But to be honest, I think I prefer the shorter version we got in Britain. Yeah, there's a big debate over which one to watch. I always tell people, look, the way I look at it is that you watch it in the order that we were drip fed it. So we saw the theatrical version first and then saw the longer versions later, which directors have put the stuff in. And you can then go, oh, I remember that bit. Oh, that's the new bit. Oh, okay. And then you can make your own mind up. Yeah, that's padding or whatever. If you watch the long version of that and that becomes then canon to you and you watch the theatrical one, you'll always think, oh no, the director's one is the one. And I think that's the wrong way to look at it, mostly. Interesting discussion about sound bars. All right, okay. I would put out a plea to anyone watching this to please be considerate of the neighbours. Oh, yeah, right, okay. I see where we're going to go with this, yeah. I certainly don't want to hear my neighbours' music and films when I'm trying to work or relax, and I'm sure they don't want to hear mine either. Those overly bassy portable Bluetooth speakers are another bugbear of mine. I don't think it's nice to force other people to listen to your music by bringing those speakers to the beach or the park or out into the garden in a deep, densely populated area. Sadly, more and more people these days seem to suffer from main character syndrome and don't consider anyone else but themselves. Anyway, sorry for the rant. No, I should have said the same thing. I'm lucky. My sound system is pointing from there this way. And when you get to this wall here, there is a 10-foot gap before you get to the house. Because I'm on the end of a house along this street before you get to the businesses, which is the post office. And therefore, they don't hear it. And when I lived in Manchester, we had what they call a ginnel. So I was a mid-terrace, which you'd think, oh, bloody hell, that's going to cause a problem. But along these mid-terraces, every 2 houses, there was a ginnel, a lane that took you to the back end of your house. Okay? And to be quite honest, that was the sound buffer there. So I've never suffered the problem of causing too much noise, and nobody's ever knocked on my door. And yes, please do this consideration for people like Jam Bomb. You can buy some lovely stuff, from places like Sound and Vision, Oak Sound and Vision. I think they do it, where you put recording studio foam, stick it on the wall as tiles, and then you can plaster over the top of that with boards, and then paint it in your house. It would knock off. It would be like cavity wall filling. It would add that much to your wall, meaning you'd be that much less room. May sound like over the top, but it does mean that when you do play your films loud at cinema level loudness, that buffer will definitely help. I know of a few people that have done that. When it comes to going outside, I've never carried a ghetto blaster out or gone to the beach playing my music loud. It was a thing, wasn't it, in the 70s and 80s, ghetto blasters. I've always had a Walkman, always listening to my own stuff. I've always wanted people to listen to my stuff and go, oh, I wonder if anybody's listening and likes this. But I've always thought to myself, nah, you could play that to your friends when they come round or whatever. So I've never been so flamboyant that I've wanted to play my music loud and go, yeah, listen to the stuff I'm listening to, you bastard wazzocks. No. So yeah, totally get that, matey. Thank you so much for that party political broadcast and children's information film. Thanks again, sir, and all the best to you and your mum. No, thank you, Jambon, and I'll be in touch soon. It won't be too far now before I will want to meet you and go to that thing in Birmingham. And I also definitely want to go to Pinfest this year. Don't think that I don't want to. 6 to 12 weeks cuts it incredibly fine for the operation. But I'm not going to let it deter me now that I know what to expect. Yes. we continue. So my salute to you, and we go to Wee Bob Art. Wee Bob Artist, but watch the rest today while picking up my drawing again. I haven't been very good at drawing this year, and I know I have still to do a Spider-Man one, which I've attempted a number of times and have struggled to do. Not entirely sure why. No, so I make a joke of it, matey. It was back in the very, very early days when you did this Elvis canvas, and I was dead jealous. I won't mind admitting I get jealous. Dead jealous of this canvas, and I was going, oh, wow, wouldn't I just love a Spider-Man one of those? And I made a joke about it, and then we've joked about it ever since. And I just go, where is it then? Bloody 3 years now. What's going on? Don't think of it like that at all, matey. I just find it a continuation joke that's between us two, if you see what I mean. And you know, I don't mean anything by it. And I hope that's how it's come across. But there we go. Anyway, I know things didn't go entirely to plan with your appointment, but glad you are still on the course to get some resolution. That's how I'm looking at it, matey. Thank you. As a fun fact that you may already know, the comic at the beginning of the Superman movie was drawn by Oliver Frey. Yes, I did know. Who, as you may know, was the artist of Zap and Crash. Question for you for next time. What is a favourite movie or TV show that takes place in a mini world like Downsizing or Honey, I Shrunk the Kids? Oh, wow. That's very interesting. Oh, well, most of them are going to know. I mean, you've mentioned Downsizing, which is a very underrated film. And Honey, I Shrunk the Kid, which is well known, but no bugger watches anymore. I think Downsizing is Mark Wahlberg, and Honey, I Shrunk the Kids is Rick Moranis. Yeah. So we've had Land of the Giants, which everyone knows, an Irwin Allen production. People Shrunk Down, something going on in regards to the big humans. It's like a crime going on that happens through the whole of that season. Doctor Who did a version of that in one of the episodes later on in William Hartnell's part, which is the first 3 to 4 years. 65? I think it was. No, tell you what, it was the second season, first episode. That's right, yeah. When they were shrunk down to the size of a matchbox. While the TARDIS dimensions went wrong. Land of the Giants, Doctor Who. And then, of course, how can I forget The Incredible Shrinking Man? Oh my God, yeah. A granddaddy of a film, black and white. Not sure who directed it, was it? Oh, it's going to annoy me. I'm sure it's the person who did Star Trek the Motion Picture. Bob Wise. I'm not sure. Anyway, there's a very famous scene in that where the man continues to shrink to the point where insects start to become a problem, and right at the end there's a spider that's menacing him, and he has to think of ways that he can keep this spider off, and the only thing he's got is a nail. You can imagine how that's going to end. And in the 50s when this film came out, scared the bejeebers out of me, because spiders back then I didn't like them. But I've grown to not be concerned too much about spiders anymore. Go figure. One of my favourite Marvel heroes is Spider-Man, so am I really going to be concerned about it? Plus, I've been bitten by one, so with my friend's pet tarantula called Bella, which I've mentioned before in a story. Incredible Shrinking Man. What else? Yeah, I'd have to really think about that, matey. Hopefully, Land of the Giants, the Doctor Who episode of season 2, episode 1, and The Incredible Shrinking Man do it for you. Definitely The Incredible Shrinking Man. Do watch that. What a film. In fact, actually, I'm wondering now, have I got that in my collection? Bastard, I bet you I haven't. Shit. So you just cost me money. Thanks, Bob. Salute to you, sir. Thank you. And we get to Ian the Hill Ramblings, which I've talked very fondly about already in my blog, where I did my live chat with him. By the way, sub to these guys. We Bob Art for definite for drawing, Steve for his gaming, etc., etc. Ian, absolutely everything nostalgia. My God. He starts off, "Hi Delboy, thank you for this blog, particularly with your mind knowing the heart procedures in the hospital were almost upon you. I was so pleased you joined me, as always, on my live stream. You must have been feeling very tired." I was, yeah, a bit. "And still mentally also in a state of recovery. I hope it did help you. I know there was a lot of goodwill around for you. That was clear in the live stream. You still managed to make me laugh too. I think it's a great part of the live stream. Oh, my, I'm beginning to sound like the Reader's Digest page, Laughter is the Medicine. I'm just remembering those condensed novels they published where they cut out lots of pages. I can imagine most authors would not be pleased with that. I wonder if they are still publishing the Reader's Digest. Do you know what? I don't know. It's like whenever somebody mentions Reader's Digest, I start thinking about Mills and Boon as well, those romance things for mostly aimed at women, but not necessarily. Yeah, I wonder. I've also just remembered they produced those record set hit collections of a particular year, and they were edited songs. I never would have bought them, and my mum and dad didn't either. There were records with hits on, produced by Arcade and K-Tel, with original songs on. However, Woolworths produced these hit record compilations with an attractive model on the front sleeve, yeah. They were cover versions, most were pretty bad, but they were quite cheap for an LP. Yeah, they were. Very cheap. I think Top of the Pops was a line as well. I think I've mentioned K-Tel, the guy that lived 2 doors down from me in the 70s, is his son I was friendly with. He was a salesman for them. I'm pretty sure it was K-Tel. It was also Ronco, wasn't there? Yeah. I'm looking it up years ago, and I don't know if this is true. Some of the session musicians went on to be actual pop artists themselves. Elton John was a session player on these records. So yeah, I do remember those. They were but they were cheap for LP. Enjoyed your review of My Cousin Vinny. That's the thing I did. Thank you so much for anybody who's watched that. I'm glad you're able to do a review. Yes, because I'll tell you what, I've been very tired, but I wanted to do something. I wanted to push myself. It was a good choice. Seeing your trailer of El Cid reminded me how we got very few good historical epics nowadays. So, here is my question this week. Are there any historical epics that you feel haven't been covered enough, or not at all in a period of history? Best wishes to you and your mother. Have a reet grand time. I'm getting better at saying that, you know. It must be catching. Oh my God. Historical epics that I mean, I haven't seen them all for a start, so I'll be talking out my arse. But I love them. When it came to the games, there was a series of games called the Total War series, where you could reenact battles that have been written down historically on how the strategy worked and why they won the battles. You know, like 1066 and all of that sort of stuff. Now, I'm not that brilliant at history, but I love all that Waterloo and Blitzkrieg and all of that sort of stuff. And I learned more and more. El Cid's opened me up to something that was going on in France in particular. So let me think. There was one on the Total War series that was the Siege of Constantinople. Constantinople. God, that'd be 14th century, wouldn't it? Yeah. One that I don't hear too much about that I'd like to know is, we knew that other than the Roman Empire, there was the Aztecs. And I never knew what killed them off. So maybe there's some battles in the Aztecs, downfall of them. Other than that, we'd have to go before Christ, wouldn't we? Yeah, the rise of Babylon. Huge, magnificent era of battles. If you like battles and war, we were a warlike race. And of course, there's many ones in China, wouldn't be? How China actually set itself up as a territory and country. I mean, we know what their suits look like and that, and I haven't watched that much Korean, Japanese, and Chinese theatre to know what those early battles would be like, other than in the Mummy there was that terracotta army. So maybe that would be good. Yes, I'll go with that. Yeah, hopefully that's a good answer. I have to say, wow. I'm stretching it with history. The Total War series was, such a great series. I ought to go back to that, you know. I hardly had a PC that could play it back in the day. Nowadays, it would run it like, you know, butter on a hot knife. So I should really go back to that. Yeah. Salute to you, sir, and thank you so much. Brilliant. And see you Wednesday, hopefully, if you'll have me back on. We get to David's retro games played badly. I can't comment as much as usual, as I've got you on loudspeaker. Oh, don't tell Jambon. I'm currently up a ladder doing busy things. I really hope the operation has gone well. Hopefully I don't fall off the ladder and end up in the next bed. Take care, mate. That cheers me up. Imagine that. Ah! Yeah, put me next to Dell, please. that'd be so much fun. Thank you for just commenting, matey. I hope you got your jobs done. I hope you're keeping well. Martroid, just watching this now, Dell, and I'm guessing you're probably going through your procedure. My God, so you did it on the Monday. Hope all is well, mate. You're an awesome person, and I wish you nothing but the best. Thank you so much. See, things like that really cheer me up. You know what I mean? It's what makes it all worthwhile, you know. Thank you so much. My salute to both of you, Martroid and Games Played Bad. David Games Played Badly. We get to Colin Jones, Ponduff. Well, I wonder what's going to happen here. It's either going to be a rant or it's he's going to agree or disagree with something I've said. Here we go. I hope all went well with the operation. The recovery is swift. I keep being tempted by Planet Crafter, but I wouldn't have the time. Getting my fix by watching what you've done, and of course, Steve. Well, I've done 2 videos on the, and I'll tell you why. I did one at the same time as the first one that Steve did. I thought Steve's was better. We then thought we'd do a multiplayer one, and that never occurred because Steve wanted to go down a different route. I understood that. Even though we'd got most of the cricks out the way. And then, of course, I've been overjoyed by 30 odd episodes of Steve's. I did one, therefore, just to show where I'd got to, and I said I was going to delete it. Yesterday, I completed it. Well, when I say completed it, I've now got to the end story where all I have to do is build a rocket launcher and choose one of the 3 endings. And the bad side of it is that you can only save once. And once you've done the save, I'm wondering whether you can go back. It's scaring me a bit. I don't know of a way of backing it up. It's one of them steam cloud things. Yeah, so I've got to choose wisely. I won't do it on video that end, but I might show off Planet Crafter, my whole base, before I remove it, because it would be a snapshot of what I did. But I know that Steve would watch it. Yeah, I'll think about it. You said that was a very expensive remote. Yeah, my Harmony remote. And also a lot of remotes. But to be fair, it's not far off what I expected, yeah. Ballsing things up is a human thing to do. Big smile. Zelda, I've never played it. Wow. Not even the 8-bit versions. So, a man of your gaming history, I'm surprised. I would give one a go, matey, even if it's the earliest edition of it. My personal recommendation would play, Zelda: A Link to the Past, and then just end there, just so that you went, I played it. Or maybe one of the handhelds ones, one of the Game Boy Advances. They were quite good. I wouldn't play the others. It's just to get a feel of, I see what they were doing, and you see why they were so mimicked. Like I say, not for everybody. You then put a quote, "You're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off," is one of the most iconic phrases in movie history. Yes, it is. My question, what do you think of classic arcade games being ported to classic systems, e.g. JOTD's Amiga ports? Do you think that there's any point, given we have Mamemeister, etc., or do you look forward to them as I do? Well, so we know your reply. What do I think? Well, I'm glad they're there, first of all. I think what it does to me is it shows that back in the day when they were doing these arcade ports, they were writing them from scratch, and most of the time didn't even have the arcade machine as a reference. Just goes to show you that the code would have been able to allow you to have actually played the game at the speed of the arcade version and with its graphics, which proves that we've moved forward and now know the programming tips and tricks that the arcade masters knew, and have adapted it to home machines to the point where they're virtually indistinguishable. Is there a point in playing them? Yeah, because somebody's gone to the hardship of doing it, proving it's like a proof of concept. Do I need to play them after that? Not really. Because like you say, you can play the main ones, the Mr. ones, but it's the same argument. Do you go back to Bomb Jack and 1942 on the Commodore 64? And the reason we do that is because we know it's not the arcade version, and they had to cut corners, and they rewrote the graphics and rewrote the tunes even, sometimes for the betterment. I remember 1942, the 64 tune was brilliant. It's 633 Squadron, brilliant tune. Ghosts and Goblins, totally redone tune. Sometimes people hate it before that because they want the arcade accuracy. For me, wow, what a catchy tune, and a classic now as a synth piece. So I suppose I haven't really come to a conclusive answer other than I'm glad they're there. I'm glad I get to play them. I'm glad somebody thought that they're worth doing, proof of concept. But the longevity of them probably is minuscule after you played them and you know that you've got Mame and Mister and everything else. But if all you've got is retro, no PC, no Mister, and all you've still got is an Amiga, and you want to play these arcade games, because Mame, on the Amiga, I think they tried to do one, but it was rubbished. Go ahead and do it. Brilliant. Go and play them. Marvelous. Hope that's a good enough answer for you. Thank you so much, my friend. Love your blogs. Love your high score challenges. I mean, I could destroy you at them all, but I decided that I'll just watch and laugh at your feeble attempts. You notice I put that one with such a straight face. I'm shit at games. And here we go with Carl Todd. Sorry, I have dyslexia, so I find it hard to do text properly. Great video. Thank you for the shout out and trying to read my message. I use Discord to chat with people more and play my games with others. I also use CLZ Movies and CLZ Music to keep a list. It's a great program and would tell anyone to use it. Thank you so much. I don't know anybody who uses CLZ Movies and CLZ Music. Do you know, I've bought it for 4 people and I still don't know whether they use it over the years. I've been using it for 17 plus years. I can't think of anything else to use. 5 programs, 5 subscriptions for me. But of course, once you've bought it, you don't need a subscription. When the subscription lapses, it just means you get no updates. It means you can still catalog and you can still put your stuff in the cloud. It's just any additional enhancements don't get them. You won't get them. But it's well worthwhile. Sorry to hear about dyslexia. I meant nothing bad if I did say anything bad. I suppose I tried to read out your message and it was a bit, it got to a little bit of gobbledygook to me towards the end. I'm so glad you're keeping well, matey. Oh, I'm so glad that you've got a way to communicate with people and play games with. I use Discord all the time as well. Less so at the moment because of my health. I'm finding it difficult to keep up with everybody's individual stories, but you can't ignore the fact that most of my information, or a lot of my information, comes from there. So it's a heads up, really, and you can't avoid it. So, brilliant. Thank you so much. Salute to you. Wee Baba, all the best for tomorrow, Dell. Still watching along. I'm about 46 minutes in at the moment, but need to get ready for work tomorrow. Anyway, like I said, all the best. We'll comment again, but hopefully once I finish up the blog. Yes, you commented later on. Thank you so much. My salute again to you, sir. And we get to Tony York, who's just put best wishes for tomorrow, Dell. Thank you so much. These must have all come in very early before my Monday appointment. And the last one is Jim Jam Movies and TV, which is greetings, sir. Another awesome video from a gentleman. Wow, thank you so much. Nobody's called me a gentleman before. Rogue bastard, possibly. Know it all, git. Maybe. But that's all the comments. Thank you so much, every single one of you. Salute to every single one of you. And such nice comments. Thank you so much. You guys all cheer me up. And we moved on to watched on YouTube, don't we? I'll go through as much of this with hopefully not pausing too much, although I'm noticing my throat is going a little bit. And where are we? We're at the 1 hour 40 stage. So hopefully we can possibly get this to just over 2 hours. This week in retro, as you know, I watch 2 specific programs religiously every week, and then I watch as much as I can of my friends or other YouTube channels which I've never watched before or very rarely. So this week in retro I had 3 subjects. They were from Tiny Acorns, Celebrity Gaming, and You're a Wizard Now Wizardry. Interesting stories. The Celebrity Gaming one was a bit let down on, to be quite honest, but I understood what it was. It was about celebrities that put their names to games in the early days, what you got, whether we liked them whether they were mostly crap or not. So he used Daley Thompson Decathlon as an example because of a recent interview where Daley Thompson has admitted every day he's asked the question about Daley Thompson Decathlon, and the other question he gets asked is, will you pay for another joystick because you broke mine? For which he finds amusing, but I suppose the gag after 40 years is running a bit thin. And they mentioned the 3 games that he endorsed, of which the very first one he had little or nothing to do. He just put his name to it. There was no rotoscoping, there was no digitizing, anything. It was all off of the programmer. He endorsed his name, got a royalty check. That's it. And yet I consider that to be the best one of the 3. I've seen Daley Thompson's Olympic Challenge and those sort of ones, and the digitized ones of the 16-bit era, and they weren't much cop. When it comes to celebrity games, yeah, I understand a lot of it will be licensed stuff, but they didn't mention the celebrity one, Bruce Lee. I mean, it's even got his name in the title. I know that they've renamed it Lee on the Atari 400 mini console because of copyright, so maybe it never really got its clearing from the Lee household, and that's why Bruce Lee is not considered an endorsement title. So yeah, it was an interesting article, and the others were fine. I love role-playing games, so Wizardry was brilliant. From Tiny Acorns just reminisces me about the BBC stuff. So yeah, great. And Techmoan went over probably the last time about the Teflon, which is a tape record. Believe it or not, it's a record with grooves in, and it uses a stylus that plays around a loop. Very big in the 50s and 60s. But they were mostly mono. And somebody had sent him a stereo head, for which he showed in this video how to change the head, how to service the Teflon, and other uses that the Teflon had during the 50s and 60s. So brilliant. Love a half hour well in my enjoyment zone, to be quite honest. Other stuff I watched are the Top Film Score. That's the name of the channel. It did top 10 soundtracks by ... because it's not just one composer. And I listened to In the Hospital, Jerry Goldsmith, as I would do. There were 10 there. There were tunes from Patton, The Burbs, Star Trek The Motion Picture, Poltergeist. They were all that covered. And I might go back to that. It's one of those ones where you're in the hospital, you've got 12 hours to pass by. What are you going to do? So there were 2 things that I watched. There was that one that I just mentioned, and the next one, which is called Dr. Oho's Adventures. Okay, which is a Doctor Who channel. The series is called Doctor Who Classic Series Summary, where he takes one particular season, dissects all of the stories, reads out a summary of what went on in each episode, gave a summarize at the end of that story, moves on and does it for a whole season. So they're quite lengthy, but they were quite good because they gave an insight that I might not have thought of. The one I watched was a Patrick Troughton one. There was nothing new for me, sadly, by the end of it. However, saying that, there's 26 of the classic series for me to go down, of which I've watched 1. So yeah, I've got a lot of watching to do. Next one I watched was Your Geek Fix. It was unboxing of the Wands tricorder replica. So the Wand is the people that are making it. They've made a replica of the tricorder from Star Trek that you can buy, identical to the prop used in the TV show, with modern enhancements. So the little discs, for which there are about 6 or 7, slot in. When they're all slotted in, it makes a USB memory reader that controls the software for the rest of the tricorder. It's not just a tricorder where you press a button and it makes a tricorder noise. It's got a mini TV at the top. You can alter the frequency of it. It's even an electromagnetic pulse detector. You aim your tricorder's bottom towards the wall plug, and you can see the AC voltage waveform picked up on it. So it's got some uses. Made out of leather, etc. Identical in size and parts. Brilliant. Hate to think the cost of it. That's what came to the mind of me. I was going, wow, much is that going to cost? Wow. So I got to the end. They didn't say what the price was. I just imagined. I then watched Worth a Buy. As you know, his name crops up sometimes. And the reason it's cropped up is it came up with the heading Empires of the Undergrowth leaves early access. And it's a game I bought. So Empires of the Undergrowth is a ant RTS game where you control ants and you're obviously bombarded with other insects, spiders, scorpions, all that. You learn about all of the different mentalities of the ants, black ants, army ants, etc., etc. There is a sub-story going on by the scientists. You can hear them while they're observing the anthills that you've made. Yeah, I enjoyed that game. Complex as hell. Much harder than a standard RTS game. It really nearly took me to the edge where I went, this is not enjoyable. But I finally found a way to understand it, and then it was great. It's all about picking up leaves and bringing them in, killing other insects and bringing them in and feeding them to the queen, keeping the queen alive while she makes her eggs, building your hive in a set space area, and then building up the army to then go and destroy other insects like termites and so forth, who are also equally have a hive community. Yeah, great. You can now buy that full release. I bought it as a early access, so I think I just get it as a patch when I next load it up. So that's good. Then I turned over and watched Dan Monroe Movies, Music and Monsters, which again you might have recognised that I've watched a couple of. I watched those Planet of the Apes ones, Logan's Run ones. This time it was What Happened to the Invaders? And that piqued my interest, of course, because The Invaders is one of my favourite science fiction shows from the 60s. A Quinn Martin production. David Vincent is the star of this alien invasion that nobody knows about. Roy Finnis was the star. Brilliant Dominic Fontaine main theme, which even now is going on in my head, with a brilliant narrative, always voiced by one actor who also did the Streets of San Francisco and The Fugitive. In fact, The Invaders was supposed to be the replacement to The Fugitive that was coming to an end. So there's a bit of history. Brilliant. Love that. And then the last one was North One as a channel. They finally released How William Shatner Changed the World, which is a documentary from 7 years ago where William Shatner goes round saying how Star Trek influenced the world, the communicator, how we do things medical wise, going into space, all influenced by Star Trek. So that's why it's called How William Shatner Changed the World, because he was Captain Kirk, wasn't he? There is a new documentary out this week called My Name is Bill, or Call Me Bill. I haven't seen it yet. Looking forward to that. The guy is in his 90s now. If you don't watch his stuff now, when will you watch it? And he was a hero of mine. I wanted to be Captain Kirk. I always thought if I slimmed down enough, would I look like him? But no, never happened. And just lastly, these are my friends that do film channel stuff. I always mention them because they're my friends as well. I love to promote their stuff. And, you know, I get part of my hobby is film collecting. So why not talk about them? So first of all, we've got Rock God 2004, my friend Nige. He did an unboxing of a Section 2 4K film. Brilliant. Always great when a person is fulfilling their collection and filling in those gaps. And the second one was 1,000 subs thank you video. So he's now reached 1,000 subs. Absolutely brilliant. Very deserving. I missed my chats with him. Didn't get to speak to him this week. I don't know whether he knows about how my operation went. I think I texted him. I don't know if I got a reply. I'm sure I did. Brilliant. And then we've got Euphoria Pictures, which, by the way, turned up in the live stream on Ian, by the way, on Wednesday. And I count him as high as Robert's Retro Gaming when it comes to the gaming side of things. So he did a John Carpenter Holy Grail item unboxing, John Wick 4K collection unboxing, and My Bloody Valentine 4K review, for which a little bit more later on. 3 videos, 3 exceptionally edited and produced videos. Definitely worth a watch. Then we've got Sammy G's World of Cinema. He's continuing his My Blu-ray collection. He's now done episodes 15 to 18, so he's done a couple this week. And he started to do ones that I don't watch. But don't let that stop you from watching them yourself. They're these 1-minute movie reviews. In 1 minute reviewing a movie, I can't do it. I'd want to bring too much into it. In 1 minute, I could probably read the back of the box. If you want to know the opinion of something without telling them what the story is, because a minute's just not enough, fine. I'm pretty sure this is YouTube's logarithm of if you do this, your numbers will grow thing. I'd rather not grow. 1 minute, nah. Not for me. But that's to say, please go and watch Sammy G. He's very enthusiastic, very knowledgeable, young guy. Well worth your time is what I'm trying to say. Then we've got Ian Hill, The Ramblings, which we just mentioned just now. And of course, you know, I did my live stream with him. Just listen to what he's brought out this week. You've got top 5 T-Rex albums, top 5 The Damned albums, top 5 The Stranglers albums, film review of Forsaken, a Western, full review of Land of the Dead, a Western, full review of How the West Was Won, that was yesterday, that was a birthday gift from me, full review of Doctor Who Time Monster, amongst others, and that's where I just sort of like stopped writing them down. The guy is mental. How the hell do you do all those in one go? And then, of course, there's my mate Jim Jam. Jim Jam Movies and TV. He did his pickups and posts from this week. And a small rant at CEX or SEX or KEX. Depends on how you want to pronounce that. Yeah. The way that KEX operates, I don't agree with. And it's all to do with what they advertise as a price. And then when you go in and you try to get that price, they change them hourly. They scan as well charity shops. So a video or a DVD that is full price still in the shops at 13 quid, and you then pick up in a charity shop cheap, means that what you thought you were going to get, which would be a £5 or £6 voucher, ends up being less than the charity price because they've picked up on the fact that the charities have got them. Nah. Awful. No, don't like that practice one bit. And that's the end of the watched on YouTube. Just have a little sip. And we move to what your YouTube stuff. So this is all my friends and what I know from Discord and what I've watched. We got Down the Rabbit Hole, my friend Kevin. He did a Game Boy Advanced Here Be Doom is what the episode was called, which is he was unsure on whether it was a bootleg copy of Doom on a GBA or whether it's actually a legit version. And that's because there are apparently many bootlegs of it. He thought his is because of the casing and the jankiness a little bit about how it played. But again, he hasn't got a reference copy to mark it against. So that was interesting. And then he played a SNES pinball game called Battle Pinball, which looked very interesting. It was a free tiered screen pinball with lots of extra bits going on that you just couldn't do in pinball, like playing Space Invaders in the middle of the playfield. So that was very interesting as well. Definitely give Down the Rabbit Hole a sub. Robert's Retro Gaming, here we go. This is where all I can do is just read it out because we've got royalty here. How many reviews and how many videos a week? Here's just a few. Dwarf Fortress, episodes 3 and 4, so 2 episodes of that. Minecraft, episodes 27 and 28, 2 episodes of that. Atari ST review of Rainbow Island and Barbarian. C64 review of Donkey Kong and Wonder Boy. 8-bit review of Boogie Boogie and Home Pong, so that would be the Atari 8-bit stuff. And a stream... a review of Spectrum's Ziphium Taudi, which I thought, wow, that's a weird title. I watched it all the way through, and it's a good Spectrum review of a game. Not my particular taste, that particular one, but a lot of Spectrum games I think fall into that ilk. Probably because I've got less nostalgia for the Spectrum. Brilliant. You've got to sub to him. It's just the law. Then you got Seb's Gaming Place. So he did a title of a video called Nobody Played These Games. And it's because he'd recently gone to Milton Keynes to the Pixel Bunker, a place I've been to several times because Pixel Bunker is only like 30 or 40 miles from where I live. I can be there in under an hour. And he mentioned free games and then played the 8-bit equivalents, the Spectrum Amstrad and the Commodore 64, one for each of the arcade titles. And I must admit the arcade titles are quite obscure, but I have played all of them in the arcades themselves. Although one of them would have been at that exact same arcade club. So I'm a little bit ahead of the game on it. But it was a great video. Fantastic. Possible meetup. You never know, Seb. Let me know if you'd like to do that. Steve's Gaming. So, as you know, my mate Steve, we've done my salute to him. You bastard. He's, as you now know, doing Planet Crafter. If you want to know what episode he's up to, and this will probably be wrong because at the time I wrote my notes, he had gone from episode 28 to episode 34. So he's probably done another one since then. So that's how passionately he loves his games and that particular series. And he did Arcade Games I Sucked At, which is a review of Missile Command, I believe. Yeah, brilliant. Definitely watch that. Then we move to Colin Jones, aka Ponder. He's doing his high score challenges for the Commodore 64. This time it was Falcon Patrol 2, a game that I definitely bought, played to death in the day, including Falcon Patrol 1. Falcon Patrol 2 is more of the same, slightly more finesse. Not by much, but a great game. And then he did his episode 70 of his blog. So you always get something out of his blog. Absolutely brilliant. Salute to you, sir. 20th Century Gaming did his Commodore 64 live stream. Plus, he did a long play of Escape from Singe's Castle. Now, this one I could watch all the way through because I've completed that game. Yes, a game I've actually completed. without cheating back in the day. And I had it on disc. Brilliant. And the last one is Mamemeister himself, who did 2 Friday waffles. That's because he didn't do one last Friday, but he decided to do it on the Monday or Tuesday night, and then also do his standard one on Friday. So there were 2 Friday waffles this week. And then he did his Sunday live last week, and I dare say he'll be doing his Sunday live again this week. And that ends that particular section of the blog. Brilliant. So we now turn the attention to what I bought this week. And I've not been prepared. I told you I wouldn't be prepared. They're up here. My God, and they're not in any order. Oh. So, let me see. Get that off. Let's see. So these are what come this week. So I just pulled the label off of this one because I had an American label on it. This one is a steelbook of... Oh, need to change camera. Bloody hell, I'm all over the shop. There we go. Killer Clowns from Outer Space steelbook. An unusually weird film. One of those ones that I saw... Ooh, what was it? Is it early 90s, late 80s? It just had a nice cover. I thought, yeah, I remember it. I'll have that. Then we get to the stuff that Nige, Rock God, recommended to me. I had to go to America to get this one, Hellfest, 4K release. He said it was the best looking horror film he's seen in a very, very long time. And so he said the colours really popped. So I thought to myself, why not? Why not? Why not indeed? You got to live once, and you only live once, don't you? Unless you're one of those religions that think you don't. He also said that if you can get My Bloody Valentine from America, do so. So there's my Bloody Valentine in a gorgeous and perfect slipcase. No marks, no nothing. Absolutely gorgeous. So I remember that in the 80s with my sister. So looking forward to that one. Then an absolute bargain, and one I forgot all about. An Ealing horror film, which is rare in itself, called Dead of Night. And some people say that this is the granddaddy of anthology films. So what I mean by anthology is you must remember things like Twilight Zone, Outer Limits, Creep Show, From Beyond the Grave, all of those films where there are 4 stories interlinked to a main core story. This started it all off, they say. Dead of Night. It's from 1945. It's by Ealing. It was originally 4 stories. It was extended to 5. Unheard of back in the day. This was an hour and 40 film, where most films would have been 90 minutes plus. And I'm going to be watching this tonight. Can't wait. It's one I've been really looking forward to this week. A pre-order that's finally turned up is Glory. There we are, talking about battle reenactments. My Glory has turned up. Looking forward to that. I think that's where... I think it's got Matthew Broderick in it and Morgan Freeman, where they turn black people from plantations of the time to train up as soldiers to act in a war, the North and South Civil War, the American Civil War. And then I obviously watched In the Line of Fire, being as I got my Clint Eastwood collection out and noticed that that one wasn't in my collection. So I looked and I did actually have it in my collection. It's just it's never been opened. And My Cousin Vinny, how could I forget that? I did a capsule review of My Cousin Vinny. Do go and watch that. It's well worth your time. And a fantastic comedy that cheered me up no end Tuesday. And that's the lot. So we go back to standard camera. And we do the trailers now and end. Where are we at? 2 hours 9. So depending on how long the trailers are, I'll catch you on the other side. I'm just going to turn and mute this particular microphone off. and take you to the streaming section, and hopefully you'll watch some great trailers. Some of them based on those that I bought there, some of them what I just watched, which you can see a capsule review of, or go and look yourself. So here we go. I'm muting the microphone now.
It's a bad time, this time of year.
How many times is he gonna tell this story?
Oh, let him tell it. I love fairy tales.
This ain't no fairy tale, little girl. If you don't take it seriously, you're a fool!
The first Valentine's dance in 20 years has to be something special.
Look, Landers, you gotta get a lot of exercise if you're gonna grapple with Gretchen.
Oh, yeah? Well, I got a Valentine for her that she's never gonna forget.
Right to the heart, huh?
In this town on Valentine's Day, everybody loses their heart.
Roses are red, violets are blue. One is dead, and so are you.
It can't be happening again. It can't be happening again.
What's going on over in Valentine Bluffs? It looks like Harry Warden's back in town.
It happened once. It happened twice. Cancel the dance or it'll happen twice.
In the town of Valentine Bluffs, there are many ways to die. Take your pick. My Bloody Valentine.
I understand you were at Antietam.
Yes.
A great and a terrible day. I could use your help, Robert.
The governor is proposing to raise a regiment of Negro soldiers.
I've submitted your name to be commissioned colonel of the 54th Massachusetts Infantry.
I mean, I know how much you'd like to make colonel, but a colored regiment?
I'm gonna do it.
Dear Mother, the men learn very quickly. Faster than white troops, it seems to me.
They have risked their lives to be here. They have given up their freedom. I owe them as much as they have given. I owe them my freedom. My life, if necessary.
1911. I can knock something down with this.
A million loyal readers want to know what happens when the men of the 54th see action.
Ain't no dream. We run away slaves, but we come back fighting.
1,000,001.
Marching is probably all they'll ever get to do.
And they gotta know that nobody's gonna let them fight. Am I right?
Let you take your regiment out to fight.
When?
Just as soon as I can write the orders.
My battalion!
Here they come!
If you men will take no pay, then none of us will.
I know because I dug the grave. A long time I'm digging, I'm asking myself when, oh Lord, gonna be our time. The way I figured this war would be over a whole lot sooner. If you boys just turn right on and you let us head on up there where the real fight is.
You should have seen us in action 2 days ago. We were a sight to see.
tomorrow we have to meet the judgment day. We want them to know that we went down standing up. Yes, Lord. We want them to know, Heavenly Father, that we died for freedom.
The president hit the campaign trail today. He left from Andrews Air Force Base on +3.
Roger, in place.
+6.
Post 12, clear.
But there's a lot yet to do.
What the hell kind of gun is that?
Something I made.
Wouldn't be interested in selling her, would you?
No, I need it.
For what?
To assassinate the president.
Looking at a living legend. The only active agent who ever lost a president.
Oh my God. That's you.
Yeah.
Frank Corrigan, the Secret Service agent?
Yeah.
You were JFK's favorite agent, the best and the brightest. Fate has brought us together, Frank.
The hell is this?
Why not call me Booth? Booth had flair, panache.
What makes you think you'll call again?
Panache.
Panache?
Yeah, it means flamboyance.
I know what it means.
Really? I had to look it up. This guy's gonna make a try, and I've got to come back, Sam.
Frank, at your age.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
Do you really have the guts to take a bullet, Frank?
Gun!
False alarm.
The balloon get you a little panic?
You keep him away from the President, away from the White House, and you sure as hell better keep him away from me.
What do you think?
I think maybe you're too close to all this, Frank.
You know, it does make me wonder about Dallas, though. Did you really do all you could have?
We got him. He's right across the street. You better pray I don't find you, you punk.
The clock's ticking, Frank.
What do you see when you're in the dark and the demons come?
I see you standing over the grave of another dead president.
That's not gonna happen.
Clint Eastwood is in the line of fire.
A funny thing happened to William and Stanley on their way to college.
At what point did you shoot the clerk?
They got framed for murder.
Whoa! Wait a minute!
Now, two kids from New York are in deep trouble.
It's time to make your phone calls.
The Klans here, they're inbred. They sleep with their sisters.
In the deep South.
Some of them do.
And only one man can save them.
We need to call an attorney, a great attorney.
He's not your typical hero.
We got an attorney in the family. Great, who?
He's
my cousin Vinny.
You stick out like a sore thumb around here.
Oh, yeah, you blend.
You graduated from law school 6 years ago. What have you been doing since? Studying for the bar.
That's a lot of studying.
What's this over here?
You never heard of grits?
Sure. I just actually never seen a grit before.
It's his first case.
Now, didn't I tell you dress appropriately?
You were serious about that?
The way you handled that judge, oh, you're a smooth talker, you are.
It's their last chance.
The two Utes.
Did you say Utes?
Yeah, two Utes.
What is a Ute?
But with Vinny's style,
I wore this ridiculous thing for you.
And Vinny's girlfriend.
We agreed to get married as soon as you won your first case. My biological clock is ticking like this, and the way this case is going, I ain't never getting married.
They're dead meat.
May I have permission to treat Miss Vito as a hostile witness?
You think I'm hostile? Now wait till you see me tonight.
Joe Pesci is My Cousin Vinny.
You two know each other?
Yeah, she's my fiancée.
Well, that would certainly explain the hostility.
And there we end on My Cousin Vinny, which I did a little capsule review on. But every single one of those films has got something about them that make me want to turn off and go and watch them again, or watch them for the first time in the case of some of them. I hope the trailer section is quite entertaining to you guys. I look forward to that. And with that, I'm going to say salute and go. My mother's desperate to go to the toilet. So thank you so much for caring. Hopefully be along for the next one. And see you very shortly. See you the next time. Salute and bye-bye.